there. Today I'm going to show you something that's slightly more advanced, but not all that difficult. It's this section right here in the playground, which is the list of files of what's in the lipid. So if I go ahead and press the metadata.json, you'll see this is the placeholder for all your data. This is the bare minimum structure that we're going to use. But let me go ahead and upload a file, and then we can look at something a little bit more complex. Try this one. These files are whatever is contained inside of your lipid file. You have CSV files, you have the metadata file, and then you have some Bagot text files. You can actually click on any of these files and it'll open up a window and show you the different data that's in there. If you just need a quick peek at it, notice that there's not any headers, so there's no variable names to tell you what it is. To do that, you would have to look down at the actual table spreadsheet to see the headers and the units. But up here it doesn't do that because this is just the plain CSV data. The Bagot files aren't all that useful to you, not really important, but just know that they're there in case they ever become important later. And the metadata.jsonld is all of the main metadata about the file. So there's a bunch of stuff here, and some of it is temporary data that just runs the page. Like this TMP stands for temporary, and that's just data about this table or this column that triggers some of the views on the page. Not really important. The important part is you can see all of your other data, how it's structured within the file rather than how it looks on the page, all pretty and formatted. Normally you wouldn't need to do anything here, but in some cases, if you have data that is not formatted right, so it's not showing up or working on the page correctly, sometimes you have to come in and manually fix those, which can look a little intimidating, but it's not all that bad once you see how it's structured. The biggest one, or one of the only ones that I've seen so far, is funding with a bad data type. So if I open this, go to funding, and right now it's supposed to be a list of objects. So there's currently one object in there, which we know because there's one object listed under funding. And if I go ahead and mess this up on purpose, let's say I just make this one single object under funding to throw off the structure, and they save it. Well, now funding is all confused because it's not in the same way that it's expected to be in. And if I click, funding 1 doesn't work right, and then funding 2 opens, and if I add a funding, there's no extra funding added. So this is a problem that I've seen in a file. If I run into an issue like this, then really the only way to fix it is to manually edit the data structure, and that would be coming in here, making this a list as it's expected to be, and saving it back to the original form. So now I'll open it up and it's back to normal. And then if I add one, it should add one just fine, and then you have an extra entry and so forth. So if I go back here again, just to be sure, we still have a list, and now we have 2 extra blank entries in there. So that's one example. There are other instances where you may run into things that aren't working correctly on the page. If you run into that, feel free to give me a message and tell me what's going on. Likely it's going to be something in here that's not the right data type and the page is expecting it to be, which is causing a problem. If I go ahead and I can show you how it links even further, let's just input some data and check how it looks on the page. So coordinates are 0, 0, 0. I can verify 0, 0, 0. But since this data is automatically linked, I can enter data here and it'll also reflect on the page as well. Let's try that. So I come down, those values are automatically filled in. Go up to here, and let's say I put in an archive type, and let's say sample. Well, now it shows sample in that archive type field. So this is here for more complex problems where if you really need to get in there and you know how to work with the metadata directly, know that you can click on these files, and these are links to show the raw data behind the files. One other thing to note is that if you accidentally mess something up here in your data or the structure, you can always do an undo with like a Control or Command Z, or if you want to undo all the changes that you made in the same session, just hit the revert to original button and it'll change it all back to the way it was when you opened the window. And that's about all there is to it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you run into any issues. Thank you.